Most valuable items in the world.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Titanic. I'm your host, Alexa. Okay, I know, money doesn't buy happiness, but it does buy some of the strangest things in the world. If you're new here, make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell so that you never miss an upload. And before we get into all this talk about money, I want to know, what's your favorite thing to do outside for free? My answer coming up later, but let me know yours in the comments down below.
The Codex Leicester, $52.1 million. Also called the Codex Hammer, this book holds a collection of scientific writings by Leonardo da Vinci. The book was published in 1510 and has had several owners over the millennia. The current owner is Bill Gates, who bought the book at a Christie's auction in 1994. He spent over $30 million on it, and it's worth over $50 million today. Wea bird feather, $10,000. The wea bird is an extinct species of bird that was endemic to New Zealand. The Maori chiefs would decorate their wardrobe with the plumage of this bird. The feathers are rare and expensive, and to own one would set you back $10,000. Sushi. Sushi is already a treat, but setting aside almost $2,000 is a little bit extreme. Be careful when eating this nigiri sushi, prepared by Chef Angelito Araneta Jr. of the Philippines, because you don't want to accidentally swallow the diamonds it's garnished with. Once Upon a Time in Shaolin LP, $2 million. You can head to a garage sale and pick up LPs for next to nothing, but browse a little closer next time. Paddle 8, an online auction house, sold a copy of Wu-Tang Clan's Once Upon a Time in Shaolin to the former CEO of Turing Pharmaceuticals for $2 million. It was the only copy produced. Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas, $100,000. Forget about the $100,000 and double that, because you need to book a minimum of 2 nights if you want to spend time in the most expensive hotel room in the world. Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas boasts this 2-story hotel room, which includes a salt relaxation room, a jacuzzi that overlooks the strip, 24-hour butler service, and $10,000 credit for the casino. The room was designed by Hearst, a world-renowned artist, with lots of original pieces inside the suite. Scream, $11.5 million. Although it's not tangible, it is interesting to note that the most expensive music video ever produced was by Michael and Janet Jackson, called Scream. It was aired on the 13th of June, 1995, and cost $7 million then, so with inflation, it's worth today $11.5 million. Antimatter, $62.5 trillion per gram. This is the most expensive substance on the planet, and it costs $25 million just to produce a milligram of positrons. This matter could be fueling spaceships in the future, but right now, that's just a dream because it's outrageously costly to produce. Salvator Mundi, $460.3 million. As of June 2019, the whereabouts of this priceless piece is still uncertain. The piece sold at auction in November 2017 for $450 million, and the painting was purchased by Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Some speculate the piece is in storage in Switzerland, while others believe it's on a yacht somewhere, but everyone agrees this painting is the most valuable in the world. The Winston, $12,970. This is the name given to the most expensive cocktail in the world. Created by Joel Heffernan at Club 23, it contains 60 milliliters of Croiset's 1858 Cuvée Léonie Cognac. This cognac holds the Guinness World Record for the most expensive cognac to be sold at auction. California Spangled Cat, $24,000. The world's most expensive cat is the Californian Spangled Cat. They were bred in the 80s to look like wild cats. They are sociable and make great pets if you can afford one. The most expensive one ever sold fetched $24,000 in 1987. Al Marjan Island, $462 million. The thought of owning your own island is one that we've all had, but then we can only dream. We wouldn't even be able to afford a small island, let alone the most expensive island that was ever sold. It was Al Marjan Island and sold for $462 million. The sale included hotels, beaches, and shops. Slice of wedding cake, $29,000. An unusual item went under the hammer at a Sotheby's auction in New York, a piece of wedding cake from the 1937 wedding of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. It sold for $29,000 and was bought by Benjamin and Amanda Yin of San Francisco. Flowing hair dollar, $10 million. This pricey coin was the first dollar issued by the U.S. federal government. It was minted in 1794 and 1795, and they used to be the same size and weight of the Spanish dollar, which was being traded throughout America at the time. This coin was designed by Robert Scott, and within a year was replaced by the draped bust dollar. KOPI LUWAK coffee. Price varies. Also referred to as civet coffee, this coffee is made from coffee cherries that have been eaten and the beans excreted by a civet. A cup of this coffee will cost you anything between $35 and $100 a cup. Sadly, as the coffee has become so popular around the world, civets are now being forced to eat the cherries and kept in captivity. Ensure your beans are from a reputable, animal cruelty-free business. John Lennon's tooth, over $36,000. John Lennon's tooth was described as a yellow molar with a cavity and amazingly sold to a Canadian dentist, Dr. Michael Zook, for $36,000. He says he hoped to be able to have enough of Lennon's DNA to clone him when science had advanced enough. He explained he would raise the child as his son, get him guitar lessons, and keep him away from alcohol. Here's to hoping he teaches him about oral hygiene too. The blood of horseshoe crabs, $16,000 per liter. This crab has blue blood. Not the royal kind, we mean legitimate blue blood, which contains all kinds of life-saving qualities. Horseshoe crab's blood has a substance in it that fights any bacteria more effectively than any cure on Earth. Despite the high cost, the demand for horseshoe crab blood is so high that they are now a vulnerable species. A kiss with Sharon Stone, $50,000. Joni Rim walked away with almost 1 minute in heaven in a lip lock with Sharon Stone. The lucky fan was awarded the honor after she parted with $50,000 at a charity auction in aid of a homeless charity project in LA in 2003. Printer ink. Price varies. It's not an exaggeration that human blood costs less than printer ink, and often it is more affordable to buy a new printer than to buy an ink refill. Levi Strauss & Company 501 jeans, $60,000. These jeans in question were found in a cave in the Mojave Desert in 1998. They weren't worn by a famous actor and didn't appear in a movie scene. They're actually just old. But how old is the crux? They are the oldest pair of wearable jeans in the world, and one of only a few pairs of authentic pre-1900s Levi's in existence. An anonymous Japanese collector bought them on eBay in 2005 and is probably doing some DIY in them right now. Marilyn Monroe dress, $4.81 million. This wasn't just Marilyn's day frock. This was the number she was in when she sang Happy Birthday, Mr. President in 1962 to John F. Kennedy, and it certainly didn't go for a song. Ripley's Believe It or Not bought the Icon Ensemble for $4.81 million in Los Angeles in 2016. Script, over $300,000. The pen is mightier than the sword and more valuable in this case too. In 2005, a Christie's auction fetched $300,000 for Marlon Brando's copy of The Godfather. I guess it was an offer they couldn't refuse. McDonald Stradivarius viola, $45 million. This is one of only 10 Stradivarius violas intact today and has lived an illustrious life. It is named McDonald after one of its owners in the 19th century. It was played by Peter Schiedolf, the co-founder of the Amadeus Quartet, until his death in 1987. It remains available if you want to put in an offer. Just note that the minimum bid goes to the tune of $45 million. Michael Jackson glove, $420,000. There can only be one glove that sold for this much, the iconic King of Pop's white bejeweled glove. In 2009, the glove, once belonging to Michael Jackson, sold in New York for $420,000. The glove has changed hands a few times, having originally been owned by Pont 16 Resort in New York. A dollhouse, $8.5 million. Asterlech Castle is not your neighborhood doll's house. It took 13 years to build, and since its completion in 1987, thousands of priceless miniatures have been added to it. It towers over children at 9 feet high and weighs 800 pounds. It has an appraised value of $2,000 per square inch to create, which is high for a real castle, let alone a dollhouse. It contains no dolls, so as not to detract from the exquisite interiors that include marble finishes, real parquet flooring, marble, and gilt trim. Ruby slippers, $666,000. These record-breaking shoes have held their position for the most expensive shoes ever worn in a film both times they've been auctioned. Judy Garland's ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz from 1939 went on auction in 1998 and fetched $165,000. Just 2 years later, in 2000, they were sold for $660,000. I guess they're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. The world's most expensive dog, over $1.5 million. How much is that doggy in the window? Well, at 11 months, a Tibetan Mastiff weighed 180 pounds and was bought by a Chinese multimillionaire for $1.5 million. He was named Big Splash, but Big Cash sounds more appropriate to me. These dogs are considered the most expensive and valuable in the world. Comic book. From an original price of 10 cents to $3.2 million, this must be the biggest case of inflation ever seen. A near-perfect original Action Comics #1 sold for $3.2 million in 2014 via eBay to Metropolis Collectibles. Now, there is nothing comic about that. The comic book belonged to Darren Adams, and he donated a portion of the money to the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. An autograph, $9.8 million. Now, I know they call the signature a John Hancock, but it should be renamed a George Washington after the 2012 Sotheby's auction sold Washington's signed acts of Congress for $9.8 million. This is by far the most expensive autograph ever sold.
Okay, that's a ton of money spent so far, but before we move on, one of my favorite things to do that costs no money at all is hiking and rock climbing. But let me know what you like to do in the comments down below.
1. Treskelling stamp, $2.2 million. This is officially the world's most expensive stamp, sold in 1996 by David Feldman auctioneers from Geneva, Switzerland. It fetched a decent amount of money, but was again resold in 2010 for a higher, undisclosed amount. The stamps were meant to be printed in a blue-green color, but an error was made and only some were printed in yellow. Only one has ever been found, and it gets my stamp of approval.